40.
Yeah, so always wear your masks. So we're using, it's an Ingersoll Rand. What model is this? I mean, it doesn't really matter. There you go. 315G straight line. They got the red ones, the black ones. One goes up in price. The other one, I'm running this black one. I used to have one of the red ones. Honestly, this is just fine. It works great. At one time, it was a few bucks cheaper, and now it's more expensive. But they tend to go up and down. So I ran that with a 40 grit, and I guess I'll explain what I'm trying to do. So this is pretty much a scuff and shoot on this side of the car. So that's what we're doing with this. It's going to be a daily driver, and it's in really, really good shape. Now, whoever took the trim off this side, they used something to get in here and pry. So within an inch or so, like here, sometimes the hole itself, but often above or beside the hole, it's like they just kept prying and they put little dings. Now, the dings weren't much, but if I clean this real shiny before we sanded it off, when you'd look down the side in the light and got close, you could see all the little dents. They basically, every single trim piece had a little bit of a dent in it. So we've got it filled right to the very back. But also they didn't take the trim off to paint from the white paint job to this nasty pink stuff. So there was a hollow here, which, I mean, you know, you can pull that off once on a repaint, but we had all the dents anyway. So we went ahead and filled it in. I don't remember there being dents here, but there was some inconsistencies. Now, when I was running my board filer, I kind of stopped here, and the reason why, right here, it kind of goes the other way. So we're going to use the shorter block on that. So I did take it down a little bit off the edge because we were using 40. Now, I didn't try to blend it right in. I just wanted to get everything more or less flat and just take the high off of it. Now, let me go where we didn't do, you know, you can see there's a few places where I came in and added a little bit. There isn't really anything high. In fact, you can almost see through the filler. So we don't want to take it down so much, but when you can see that you can almost see through, you kind of want to stop. And there's places where we ground, anywhere that was strange, we ground it. Any little bit of rust around these, we actually fill it with a fiberglass reinforced filler, and we added a little bit extra resin to it. So we ground that out, hit it with the sandblaster just enough to rough it up, get the little bit of black out of the metal. We still got to come back. I'm going to sandblast this area right here, and on the other side, down in the corner, there's a spot. But otherwise, these are really clean, so we're not going to mess with those. Again, this isn't a complete resto. We were going to do a down to metal resto, and the guy says, I just want to drive it. Just do a driver paint job. So that changed. But anyway, at any rate, we like the car. The car's pretty clean. The only hole in the car was right there. So you put a little piece of steel in. We fiberglass that. I haven't even touched that yet. I'm not worried because I'm worried about the flow of the car. So that's what I'm doing first. So all we're doing, 40 grit on a 16-inch board file, and basically we're just going to take this down to where it's close to level, but not quite through. Next, we're going to go to this guy, 888S from Astro Pneumatic. We're running sticky 80 grit. So the 40 will take it down, but this 80 grit, and I'll show you that in a minute, we'll try to take that down to the finish spot. Now I have a feeling right here, here, and there, we're going to have a couple low spots. But once we start going across this, the 80 grit won't cut into this too much, so we'll be able to blend it right into the body, and it should go nice and smooth. Now, let's talk about this guy. This is, here, let's set that down. I'm going to try to explain this the way I understood it. So that's what everybody runs, and most guys will even do it by hand or use one of these plastic board files, and that's fine. And some guys say that's too short unless you need a small place. Now, we used that when we reblocked all these sail panels. So both sail panels, we're done with this little guy, and a little bit by hand with 120 to finish it up. Enough that we can prime it. Now, the idea with blocking, generally speaking, the longer a block, the better. Here, give me a second. I'm just pulling my earbuds out. I had one out. Don't want to be talking crazy and loud. But anyway, so you've got, the ends are matched up there. And basically you've got a 16-inch and an 11-inch. Now, should you own the 11-inch, it's shorter. So if you run something shorter, you're going to go all crazy with it. Now, I couldn't really show it in the video, even sanding with the big one. The idea, especially on the side of a car, because, you know, they have a little bit of weight to them. You're not pushing it into the car. You're just holding kind of the weight to the car, and you're letting the paper basically file and do the work. Now, as you can see here, little metal shows here. We have to stop there. But this is, like I say, about where we're going to get, but we're going to have to level the edges and then go right across. And that's what we're going to use that for. Now, this car is really, really straight everywhere else. So I know when I come off of here, it's going to print a bit of a pattern on there. And whether you're doing it on this paint here sands really easy. It acts a lot like a primer, which, I mean, I guess that's all right. But even if you're going on a primer, it's the same idea. We don't want to cut through here. So I wasn't taking my 40 above. I was kind of, you can see where we hit this. There's just enough thickness you won't even see it. But it didn't scratch into the pink. You can see a little bit there, and it didn't even quite go through. All we wanted to do, now down here we hit it a little bit, but it ain't deep. So when we go over with this guy, with the 80, we're going to come past that. We're going to blend right in. We're going to keep going up and down like so. We're even going to do a crisscross pattern and then go across it and just keep moving it. And if you stay at the same rate, there's no reason that this won't make it straight. Now, I know there's a lot of guys that are going to talk about the longer the block, the better it is. And I get it. You see those linear blocks, and on this car, that'd be nice because this is crazy. And I'm sure they're an amazing product. And I don't know what we're going to do after we prime it to block, but we'll see how that goes. But realistically, we're roughing in to make the bad stuff good. That's all we're doing here. It's a 63 Coupe de Ville. It's a daily driver. It's a nice, clean car. Now, as far as car shows goes, this is going to be, you drive it to Cars and Coffee, local car shows. This is not trying to win awards or anything like that. Now, that being said, we want it respectable. So the whole bottom of the car has been painted black. We rust treated all the floors and everything with black. That's just some stuff I got there as a temporary seat. You know, rockers are nice and all of that. So it's some of it is going to be scuff it up, prime it. Once the whole car's primed, we'll block it, seal it, and shoot it, whatever we decide to do. So yeah, all we've done here so far, like I didn't even bother coming up here because it's so paper thin. There's almost nothing there, even though you see it. Our 80 on that 11-inch is going to work fine. And another thing is, if you have experience, and it took me a few years to probably get to where I was confident enough. I always went by hand, and I used one of those and a really long Durablock, and I'd go across and across, and I'd spend days. But yesterday, I used that one and that one just as you see them here because I wanted to try them the way I'm using them today. You can see we painted all that inside. So yesterday after lunch, this was filler on top of filler on top of filler. And what we found, we had to pull all the old bodywork out because this had been all crinkled up. We fixed some of the dents a little bit better. So instead of half an inch of filler, we've got, you know, well, let's see if we can see it. A little bit of filler, nothing crazy. By the time you get here, there's almost none, and then there's clearly none at all. So this is sort of what you want to do. Now, I could sand that even a little closer, but what we focused on was getting the shape. And the reason why, when you go down this car, it's not really flat anywhere. It's round, and then it's a little less round, and then it's rounder, you know, like, but it isn't flat. But whoever did this quarter the last time, from about here down to here, was perfectly flat, which to me was really weird. And I think the reason, they probably sanded it in quite a bit because they had so much filler. And then they had the trim, and I don't know if the trim hit it, because when the car come to me and I first went and appraised this car and looked at it, excuse me, there was no trim on it. That had all been stripped down. But when I had it outside in the light, when I looked from the back this way, it looked kind of flat, and it didn't look bad, and it sort of blended into the car, but the other side is round. So after I blocked this and built it and worked on it, I kind of almost put it back the way they had it. So then I ran a nice big, and I was going to just do back there. I went ahead, I ran a nice bead of filler from the front all the way back, right across all the holes. Now, when you do the holes, you're going to see little impressions. So what I like to do for those, I got this drill bit here. Man, it's not particularly sharp. I don't use it for anything else. But I'll drill into the hole, I'll turn it backwards so it pushes in, because drills will cut in. And I just put them in the hole and spin them around and clean my holes out. Once we do the final prime, that'll all seal up really well, so we'll be good. But when you put your filler, it'll kind of fall. You'll see little marks, you know, and if you lose one, measure the other side, find it. Not a big deal. You can figure it out. But basically, we're really happy with this. And what I learned was I could have boarded this for an afternoon, but I just used those two machines back to back. First the long one with 40, then the 11-incher with the 80. And it took me about 45 minutes, an hour to block this side of the car, including some stuff up here and everywhere else. You're going to have to take my word for it. If I hit this with a bit of wax and grease remover, it's straight. Is it absolutely perfect? I'm not sure. I think it's close. But we're going to scuff all this down at least one more time anyway. And then we're going to put 3 fat coats of just a cheaper DTS polyester primer, I think it is. It's a 2K. And basically it's a high build, but not a crazy high build. But if we do 3 coats, even 2 heavy coats, it'll be enough. It'll take care of the sand scratches and everything else. And whatever imperfections are in it, we should be able to block out. Same with all this up here. You can kind of see, if I can get it to focus, you see the sand scratches in it. Like they're faint, but they're there. And there's enough there. We could sand this all with 320, 400, depending on what kind of paint we're putting on it. We're doing a base clear, so minimum 400 on this one. It'll look like they're gone, but they might not be all the way gone. So we'll scuff all this primer up a little bit. We were just using this so that we could basically spray it on and kind of see it. So I'll go over this, you know, probably a 320. 90% of this primer is going to fall off, but I don't care about that. I use a lot of this stuff here, this one step. It does self-etch, which is great if you have breakthroughs. You can also get this, I think it's a 321 or 123. And it's basically, it doesn't have the etching in it, which sometimes you don't want. But all we use that for, again, is when we're working on it, keep stuff covered up and buried and whatnot. And even with the bit of etch that's in that, you can use this. It's not a lacquer-based paint. It is a professional spray can. So this is twice the price of that cheap lacquer junk, you know, that you buy primer in a can. Don't do that because it's soft. You don't really want it in between your layers. So yeah, those 2 machines made this really, really quick. And what did I do? 5 minutes on the video or so. And we got a substantial amount of that down. We'll do the rest here. So another 5 minutes. And then when I get my 11-incher, we're going to keep going across back and forth till we're happy. And again, it has that little bit, like it comes out and then it's a little bit flatter and then round, but it does have some round to it. And when you look down here, you can clearly see that it's supposed to be round. Some guys will overdo it and you don't want to end up with flat spots. So you make sure you keep moving up and down. When we go with the 80, we're going to come right over the pink just about every time. And what that'll do is we're not going to stop on the filler so much when we move. You know, you don't want to stop, let it vibrate here and dig in and then come down. You want to kind of bring it up and so on, and keep going. You can crisscross it like you would do your normal blocking. It's just faster because it's, you know, vibrating back and forth. But anyway, so I'll set you back up on the stand, and we'll hit it with the 11-inch. Maybe we'll just do this front portion. I'll do the back later. Sorry about that. So I did feather it into here a little bit just because you kind of have to, because you want this good. I didn't go real heavy here though, because when we come back on this, we'll blend that all together using the same tools. Now if you come up real close, there was a big dent right here. Now when I say big, you know, obviously it wasn't a huge dent, but you can see right through. We had some low spots up here. I wondered about that, but you can see now, this is like right across. It's smooth, smooth, smooth. So when they had dents, I think it was this one or this one. This one had, I think, a big dent here. But on this side, there was 2-3 dents up here. And there must have been a low spot right there. We will block that to make sure. And some of this will get blocked by hand once it's primed. Like this is all within the realm of primer, which is great. And then from here back, that's atrocious. I can feel it. But here I can see it, and my fingers can't even feel it, which is what you want. Don't trust these. Now, I'd recommend if a guy wasn't, if you got this far, but you weren't super duper confident yet, for lack of better words, you could give this a dust with a little bit of guide coat. And look, I'll probably do it without the guide coat myself. Maybe I'll put guide coat. Sometimes I do. It just depends. Here's a 120 on my longboard, and I might go over that just to see what it does. And if it marks here and not here and here, then I know, you know, somehow something happened there and I didn't quite hit it enough. But I mean, before I take any more off, I will go over it with this just to double check and kind of watch the lines. I might actually do the guide coat thing with that. As I explained earlier, we knew we'd have some low spots. This had to be all kind of fixed up in here. So here we have some low spots. We're not going to sand that out. I put a little edge on here, and I knew this would be hollow. This is where we want to stop. So what we're going to do, we're going to throw our fender flare in. I had this edge set in a way that I knew where the fender sat. So we don't want to take this down. Like, you could just sort of sand it and kind of, oh, it indents a little, who cares? But you don't want to. You want it laser straight. Then you just want to put a nice eased edge on here. And the reason why, when you put this in, like, install it and uninstall it a couple times till you're happy with it. And the idea was, now there's going to be rubbers in here that hold it away from the body. I don't know that it had that factory, but I find what happens, they lock in down there. You see that little hook? And you see one over there. You know what? Let's, I'm going to hook it on so we can show you. Just put a little scratch in my filler. No, just marked it. It'll be fine. Just bear with me. I'm going to install this kind of one-handed. One's hooked, then you come up and hook it on like so. There we go. And you see what happens? But if I put a little stopper there to hold that out, that one pushes in, and then when we turn the lock, it sits in really nice. So we're going to do a rubber there, and we're going to put a little bit of putty in this corner and install it, and then take it off, and then that putty will decide what rubber goes there. We're going to put a rubber stop there and here, which is going to keep this nice and straight. Sometimes you can untwist these a little by hand. We did that a little bit, but you don't want to kink it and throw it right out of shape. So what we had done earlier is I took this little piece of paper, sandpaper that was sitting on the floor. You can see it's not overly thick. If I stick that right here and put that thing on, this is where it stops, and it's perfect all the way around. And that's what we want. So even though this is a daily driver, you don't want to put like a fender skirt on and, you know, it's kind of, it looked like it don't fit the car. So this way we know it's going to fit. We're happy here. Our transition here is real nice. We fixed this all up in here. So we're going to have to put a little fill here and a little fill here. And again, I want to go over this, what you saw me do. We got to go over this by hand. Now here I got a little bit weird because this actually comes out before it rounds the other way. We should be pretty good. And again, I'll take a smaller board one of the skinnier ones from Durablock, and I'll kind of go up and down crisscross this just to make sure that if there's any little whoops in it, we sand them out. But before we do any of the by hand, I'll fill this and this, and I'm probably going to walk the panel everywhere. Like right here, we could probably put a little bit in. That mark I created, no, I don't think there's anything there. It's just a mark. There may be a spot right there. Well, maybe not. Just looks that way. Yeah, I'll put the guide coat on it and then it'll reveal itself for sure. But yeah, I can see where I'm almost all the way into the other color. And then here, of course, I might add a little bit of fill here. There's a low spot right here, just like the other side. So I'm going to put a little bit right here before I even machine block that. But hopefully you got something out of that. I kind of showed you how I do it. Now, you may try and fail and you'll be mad. And it may take a few times to get the hang of it because we're using the machines. Usually you use the machine only where you have to and you hand block everything. I've seen all the videos and there's nothing wrong with that if you got the time. But I mean, if you're working in a shop, and especially in a collision setting, not that you're doing much of this, it's a lot of parts changing. But if you do a quarter or a box panel, you want to get it done quick, you're going to have to learn how to use these guys. I think I mentioned them in a video before. Check out Bondo Billy's channel. He explains this his way, and it's a good way. It was enough that watching one or two videos with him using this, I was able to just simply buy this and use it. And I'll say, thumbs up, Billy. That tool is awesome, as you said. It's made my my work a lot faster. And I mean, money isn't how fast you can get stuff done. With